right here with the E46 M3 is that's a smart buy. That's a brilliant car that you can drive every day. That
Yep.
it's going to be years before that car is considered slow or just out of touch or out or too antiquated. And so I look at this and I think that we're going to look back on it and say, man, I could have bought one of these for under $30,000, and why didn't I? And I think that day is not far away. And this particular car, what you're looking, it's got average mileage. It's pretty close to stock. I haven't seen yet if it's had, I know, this has a fatal flaw is I think it's rod bearings are and actually you see this right here. The seller states the rod bearing recall service was performed in February 2020. And so right there, that this car is a home run in every which way, because it's just, that's the one, like I said, the one weak link in these is that rod bearing or failure issue. But you got
Yep.
an owner here who paid attention to the recalls, got the work done. The car looks to be mostly stock, and really the only thing that's not, and it's a superficial complaint at best, is just the fact that the color combo isn't particularly novel or sexy. But again, that really doesn't matter. In fact, I think it worked out well for the next owner, because they probably saved a few bucks versus it being, like an Amola red or a Laguna Seca blue or something like that, where you're going to add another 5,000 to 7,000, if not more, on the sale price because of the rare color scheme. So to me, yeah,
Yep.
this is a home run all day long.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, very much on a very similar page than you, especially with the first point. When I see something like this, the kind of the line that comes to my head is now or never, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're at a point where there's really, if you think about it, I don't know really what else you would buy that would be just as beautiful, just as fun to drive, have just as unique of a drivetrain with that, high revving. So, what else are you going to buy for, 30, 35K that's just as fun as this, just
Right.
as cool? A lot of people make the argument, well, you're going to spend 10 grand a year to maintain it. Like you said, you get those rod bearings done. Maybe you buy a car like this and you keep, 2 or 3 thousand away, knowing I might have to spend that at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But I personally haven't obviously owned one, but I know some people who have, and they seem to have really good luck with it. It's not like a crazy, overwhelmingly fast car, but what a great thing to have to sit on, drive in your
Mm-hmm.
free time, and probably make some money when you go to sell it, or whatever you decide to do. Can't go wrong. Really
Yep.
can't go wrong. And it's funny because you remember this way more than me, most likely, right? Because you're a little bit older. But I remember when these kind of came out, and it was like, wow, the new BMW. Not too long, you're gonna look at this and it's gonna be a classic, So it's
Yeah.
cool. Goodbye, in my opinion.
Yeah. 100%. And it's also, it's when you said, "What else can you buy for this money?" The only that would be this fun to drive. The only thing that came to mind, right away, if I'm, and it's really not even a fair contest, is the Honda S2000. But there's a major,
That's
there's a major
that's
penalty.
actually no, that's very fair. That's
Yeah,
very fair, I would say, actually.
but
Revs to nine stuff, it's a very high strung motor, lightweight. That's fair.
but it's also not a car I would want to drive every day. Where this car it's a four-season car. It's
Mm,
and when you don't want to be bouncing off the rev limiter, it's entirely content just being driven at in down
totally.
speed. So again,
Yeah.
it wins in the daily driver category pretty handily as well.
Yep.
And I think the number here is excellent. That's the other thing is if you were to buy one of these with extremely extremely to very low mileage, so say sub 50,000, yeah, that's another trigger for this car suddenly becoming more expensive. So the other thing is that I think right now there's still a window where you can buy one with higher miles that's been maintained for well under that price point, but it's only going to be so long before everyone who is priced out of the sort of that time capsule segment is going
Mm,
to is going to get bumped down to here and start to say, well, 35, 40,000 looks better than 50,000. So again,
you totally agree.
that window is closing. But let's
Agree
jump
with
on
you.
to the next one you flagged here, which is one I've been watching for a little while and remain a bit confused
Have you
by.
been?
Yeah, the Excursions, it's just one of those vehicles that in the past 2 years, I just didn't see it coming, whereby nicely maintained examples would all of a sudden be, kind of selling for what I would call collectible grade money. So,
Oh, totally, totally,
well,
totally.
you
Here,
take off.
you go first. You go first on
Okay.
this. But yeah, there's a lot to say about this. These are super cool, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I will admit that as much as I consider myself fairly well versed on why certain vehicles are selling for what they are, I don't quite know why the Excursion is where it is right now, aside from the fact that it's
Mhm.
the last of its kind, right? It's if you wanted a full size diesel power, turbo diesel powered 3-row SUV. I mean, that's the only thing I see. It's pretty obvious, which is to replicate this in today's money, you can't even touch this. And I know you're pretty close to the Ford brand on a daily basis, and you've shared with me how you see people coming in and spending ungodly amounts on a new Expedition, for example. And this is so much more truck. It's from the space to the drivetrain, which is incredibly stout. So I certainly understand why there's components of this that are driving people to spend a fair amount of money. I think it's more just us caught off guard that in the past 2 years they've really nice ones have really taken off. It's like the E30 M3 phenomenon, not nearly the same, but in the same vein, where it wasn't that long ago that a used one of these was. I mean, it really wouldn't even catch anyone's eye at a wholesale auction, but now it's like if you spot one of these coming through that that the first owner just uses the trade in, not really thinking about its potential desirability in the secondhand market. I think if you're someone who cruises that auction circuit, you're buying every last one of these that you can find, because they are reliably selling for this kind of money. So um,
Mm,
you know it's certainly unique, and I think it's more just my preferences for a full size SUV go in a slightly different way. But if you want a Power Stroke powered full size truck that isn't a pickup, there's not many options out there.
totally agreed. You really can't buy them anymore, right?
Mhm.
So again, my first point, same as the M3, same as this one. My first point's the same as yours. It's the last of its kind, right?
Right.
What people don't realize about this thing and why it's so crazy, right? Because the diesel engine, it's going to weigh almost 1,000 pounds in some trims. So the Excursion was actually on a Super Duty chassis, like an F250, F350.
Okay.
So it's not exactly just a normal SUV like the Expedition or the Tahoe. It's actually a heavy duty, almost a commercial chassis that's been designed as a family hauler, right? And when I realized I used to commute to North Carolina to go to school. So Rhode Island to North Carolina, I do that like twice a year. I got to do that like 6 or 7 times. I did it my Honda CRV, whatever, but it was a lot of fun to do that. When you get into the South, you start seeing all sorts of different, like more it's way more trucks and like
Oh yeah.
loud exhaust, old farm vehicles. I saw one of these in Tennessee, an Excursion turbo diesel. This one had the 7.3 engine. It was a little bit older, the 7.3 diesel. This thing, flow of traffic, 65 miles an hour. This thing piles by. I was sitting at a rest stop, squatted, and it was towing, I don't know, a 25, 30-foot boat, and it was passing everyone.
Right.
And it really is like a turbo diesel heavy duty truck that you can carry the family around in. Um,
that scenario you just laid out, that because I mean we've all seen that guy, that's that person we feel bad for, and like, a truck that I like, which is, full size truck like that, the Toyota Sequoia, which I love, but
great
you see,
trucks.
but you see the thing, with reverse rate going on when it tries to tow.
Yeah, because it doesn't have that reinforced big steel frame. You know what I mean?
Whereas,
Which it probably shouldn't
I
have
mean,
that
yeah,
anyway.
yeah. Look at this. Look at that thing
I mean,
underneath. Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
so definitely the last of its kind. Just a totally cool thing. They make the turbo diesel Chevy, what are they, the Tahoes today, but it's a 3 liter 6 cylinder. It's more aimed for efficiency. 6 liter turbo V. Yeah, I mean, come on, it's
right.
awesome. I think
Yeah,
that's really cool. Really
yeah.
cool
No,
stuff.
I uh, I agree. I think if you've got the lifestyle that supports it, and certainly as I've shared, I know with the scenario you described quite well with my in-laws all being south of well south of the Mason Dixon line. Certainly these
Yes.
trucks have a much different calling down there than they do up here, and but again, what you just laid out, where if you wanted to have all of the beefiness and robustness of a Super Duty pickup, but in a comfortable SUV style package. Especially, you look at this. I mean, there's so
Come
much room.
on.
Yeah, uh,
And the drivetrain of that is a freaking 500 foot-pound of torque, big V8. I mean, it's just so cool. You'll
yeah.
never see something like it ever again. Ever.
No, you won't. And
Ever.
uh, yeah, that so I may be when I see this interior and I think about the fact that every day I curse any one of our vehicles I'm trying to move a car seat in a route, and like this actually looks pretty great in terms
Oh
of
yeah.
interior
Big time.
comfort. And this one too, I mean, this is in really nice condition.
For
Everything I
sure.
see, like the plastics, the leather wrap steering wheel, the clarity of the gauge cluster. I mean, it's this has been looked after, and just even the wood trim still looks quite nice. Yeah, this is probably, there's some of these that I've seen, they've been quite rough because they are used like a truck. This one has clearly been, sort of treasured like a luxury vehicle. So that makes it a standout as well.
Yeah, real cool. I think it might be the last year. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'll be honest. I saw this and I thought it was a like a like a custom one. I didn't know that they made them in '05, to be honest with you. So
It
this is a
has,
late model.
yeah, it has to be close to the end because I know that that nose design was definitely
Mm-hmm.
that's still very modern looking too, which is a nice benefit.
Totally.
And
Totally.
honestly, any Ford truck in the Eddie Bauer trim, I don't care what model it is, it's always going to hold its value, whether it's a Bronco or even a first gen Explorer. Eddie
Yep.
Bauer, despite being purely cosmetic, it's got some cachet, and it's worked well for those trucks. So,
I agree.
awesome find. This was a fun one. I like it.
Yeah. And that sold today, actually. I was looking at that at the office. I
Oh
was like,
yeah.
wow. Yeah.
And I'm just curious, as I mentioned before, you work with one of the more successful Ford franchises here in Rhode Island. Do you ever hear or see anyone like who manages your used car? Are they ever inventory? Are they ever looking for these? Are they ever trying to scoop one of these off the auction circuit, or is it not really on the radar of a new car dealer?
No, it's funny you asked that because I was thinking about it. And it's like, you know what? You know how we right now we're saying, well, people used to look over them and now, people are it's just such a small subgroup. If they made one of these today or you tried to sell one of these to the general public, it's just, how do you explain it? I don't really think
Yeah.
that I think to us car guys, it's like this is so cool. But I
Right.
think there's a reason they stopped making it.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
really think this is sellable. Well, you take your kids around and it gets on the window sticker, it gets 8 miles a gallon. I mean, how do you sell that?
Yeah. That's
$10,000 motor. How do you sell it?
yep. It definitely, yeah. It's an outlier for sure. And
Yeah.
to the credit of the EcoBoost trucks, which obviously I don't think can hold a candle to a Power Stroke, but they are. If you're not that person, if you're not that diehard enthusiast, how do you look at it and say, why the hell would I sacrifice 35, 40 miles per gallon when the EcoBoost is insanely quick for what it is? Now, again, you or I might say, honestly, because I know this thing is unkillable, and the
Yes.
towing capacity is bananas. So yeah, I'll live with 8 miles per gallon, but 98% of the buying public just they don't have that. They don't have that mindset.
Yeah. And we'll switch to the next one. But last thing I'll say, just last thing, real
Yeah,
quick, and
yeah.
the next one. Just to show progress, I think they made 450 foot-pounds of torque and like 375 horsepower. The Expedition with a gas-powered 3.5 twin turbo, it's like 440 horsepower and 500 foot-pounds. So, we've definitely made progress in the last,
Yeah,
16 years, but
but it doesn't sound like a diesel, that's for sure.
exactly. So that's almost dumb to say. It's not
No,
a
but
big deal.
no, but again, for most of the people walking into a Ford showroom today, that's all they need to hear, and then they're just like, "Why on earth would I spend 50 grand
Exactly. Yeah, the
on
average
it?"
consumer.
Yeah. All right, final one. Jeep Wrangler SE. This is the what generation? What do you call this generation, Lars? It's at the
TJ,
TJ.
technically.
Yeah. Okay. You lead the way. What did you think of this? You have a bit of an affinity for Wranglers. I think you had a YJ series a few years ago. What are your thoughts on the sale price?
Yeah, so it's funny you say for me to lead the way because I mean I did have a Jeep. I had a 93 YJ that was absolutely awesome. 5 speed with the 4 liter inline six. This one, honestly, I kind of noticed after the fact it had a 4 cylinder. So let's just pretend it doesn't because I think the price is pretty consistent. Maybe, 1 or 2 thousand under what a 6 cylinder would be. But yeah, I like these as a I think these are great beach cruisers. I think this is a nice fun car for someone who kind of wants like an enthusiastic summer open air driving experience. These in particular, the TJ after I think 95 with the circle headlights, they're definitely less rugged and like, engaging, but they get coil springs and they get, softer bushings. Everything is just so much nicer to ride. And I kind of wanted to, bring it up with you because you definitely have had a few 4x4s in your time. You have the Land Cruiser, you have the
Trooper.
what's the one you just got? The Trooper. Yep,
Yeah.
you got the Trooper. So you definitely kind of have a knack for the 4x4 kind of, crawler vehicle. So I wanted to see what you thought as well.
So I think this is a lot of money for a four cylinder. Um, at the same time, what I feel like people are realizing is that finding a bone stock, nicely preserved Wrangler of any generation is getting increasingly hard to do. And the YJ has
Yep.
really, I don't think a lot of YJs are selling for the money we
They
see some
really
of the.
don't sell for much.
No, but I've started to see sort of the gouging effect, right? Where, even just the other night, I went to look at a bike, and the gentleman had
Yep.
he had a Renegade Edition YJ, so a 93. And to his credit, he really just lucked into finding it in someone's driveway, and it was in beautiful condition with the only YJ I've seen with like a cardinal red interior. It was absolutely stunning.
Wow. Yeah, they
And
do have that. Yep.
I told he was asking me what I thought it would sell for. I said, listen, I think you can get 15,000 for this all day long with it presented the right way. And in any case, I do think these have kind of gotten to a point where buyers are willing to spend money for a good one, but at the same time, I don't think this particular era, the TJ, has gotten so scarce yet that I would want to overpay for one. Like a YJ, I mean, I know personally if I found a clean Islander edition in the right colors with the graphics, still adhered to the body, I'd probably pay more than I should just because I know, and actually in that Renegade I looked at, I was like, should I make a run at this? And I'm just not passionate enough about these. But what I've noticed is, and you may have even seen this Jeep if you, and I apologize for listeners, we're going to kind of go local here for a second, but if you're you're heading down South County Trail, there's Pezza farm, the farm stand. The one of the women who work there have one of these in that very rare long wheelbase form where they had like the longer rear floor that had kind of a more proper back seat.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
there's actually there's a silver one there, and then there's a yellow one that gets serviced at the Sunoco station next to the post office. And like I've seen those start to sell for some very real money, over 15, range of 15 to 20,000.
Totally.
And so I do think people are waking up. It's like the same effect as the YJ, where the special limited edition models are becoming more sought after because people are realizing, hey, there aren't many of these left. And but conversely, and I'll shut up. The flip side of that is, though, I think these are still in an early part of the curve where, like, I wouldn't want to go out and just buy the first one I see, because there's still a pretty good chance within 4 to 6 months I could probably sniff out one that the owner doesn't know or isn't, part of that world where they're looking, to them it's just a used Jeep. So I do
Yeah.
think there's still good deals out there, as opposed to the Excursion we just saw, where now I think anyone with a nice one knows they can ask real money for it. I think there's still time to be patient with a Wrangler from this generation. And personally, I look at this one and I say, it is nice. There's no doubt about it. The condition is excellent, and but it's not crazy low miles. It's a 4-cylinder, and I think all day long you could find the same truck for under 10,000.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. Um, I do kind of feel like now, okay, now after hearing you say all that, which is again a very insightful, I feel kind of dumb choosing this one. It was
Not at
more so
all.
to open up the discussion on older Jeeps, because this really isn't a great example. Um,
But but I think it's important, though, to note this, that there is, I mean, let's look at the bidding activity here. So what do we have in the final minute? I mean, there were two people who wanted this Jeep, and even, let's see if we can see where was the bidding, 2 days ago. So I mean, yeah,
yeah,
having sold a few cars on Bring a Trailer, like I've never had one where, like, 2 days before it closes, like that the bidding activity starts heating up. It's always like the first 36 hours there's a bunch of bids and it's dead, and then like the last 2 hours is when the rest of the bids come in. So when I see an auction like this where they had they had some activity sort of midway through, and certainly a wide range of bidders, like this to me is like the meatiest part of the curve right here, because, and this
it
is kind of
is
where I
definitely.
felt like that's where most people were comfortable in this one. They could see spending up to 10,000, but then you see two individuals, starting.
That's very true, actually. That's a good way to look at it. It's kind of where it dies off. And I do think you're right. I think this was kind of overpriced for what it was. Not exceptionally low miles. Nothing really. It's a very early model, which is not. I mean, these went until '05, so very early model
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sale. But again, like you were also saying, it goes to show that people are starting to almost get that feeling of, oh, this is relatively clean with no. The thing about these is the rust issues are real bad. These are kind of throwaway cars, as sad as it is to say. Like the YJ, throwaway car, totally. Very thin sheet metal, no insulation.
right,
Some of them didn't even come with carpet. They almost sold you like a tub, which is
yeah.
it's interesting.
I
Look at this one, no rust at all.
Well, and this one, when I see this picture too, I'm thinking the color scheme worked well here, because I do think a Wrangler in hunter green with sort of a caramel or a dark tan colored top, it is a very handsome truck for sure. And
Exact spec as my YJ, yeah, forest green with the tan
oh yeah,
top. That OEM spec.
and I like the cloth interior as well. That in terms of the upholstery style, that's this is a great 90s era. This is very similar
So
to the
cool.
the Sahara. This kind of reminds me of a Sahara edition YJ inside. So I could see this one just speaking to somebody on a pure aesthetic standpoint. But again, listen, we know a lot of bidders on Bring a Trailer these days. 13 grand is nothing, not
Mm.
it's pocket change. So why not just float on this? But I think for the rest of us, you could definitely duplicate this truck for less money. But hey, again, it's very rarely that we look at things like this and say, wow, that individual really overspent. It's always 2 years later, it looks like a great deal.
Yeah, yeah, I know. That's usually how it is. And I agree with you on that.
Well, out of these three, Lars, which one? I mean, putting aside the fact that they're all very different, if you could have had one of these three, which is the one that stands out to you as the one to buy? I mean, I think I know the answer,
Um,
but I am curious. There's this one and this one. I feel like there's a tough choice to be made here.
yeah, I mean, I will say if you're just putting value aside, not like resale is not something to keep in mind. I'd probably still take the M3 just because like you definitely would end up wanting to. Here's the thing: after a year of owning that Excursion, do you think you'd wake up like, oh, I get to drive it to the beach? No, you probably wouldn't. Probably wouldn't
Yeah,
feel like that. But this, I think you'd
yeah.
always wake up like, oh, I'm gonna drive the M3 today, baby. You know. But that Excursion, say you were a skier or something, you load up the guys, head up the
Hmm.
mountain, put it in four high. I mean, that would be really cool. But day to day M3. What about you?
Yeah, so I had to drive the Land Cruiser a bunch this week because my wagon was just it got held up by a standard service where a component that needed to be replaced was not available. So in any case, I
Yeah.
was always kind of like, I spent a lot of time in it, and in one sense, I enjoyed it because it's so cumbersome to drive
Mm.
that you don't really want, you're never compelled to like try to beat that guy off the ramp, or to scream ahead of somebody from traffic light to traffic light. It was actually a nice change of pace for me in terms of how I typically am when I'm driving. It just was like, hey, this thing is not going to go any faster. It's just you can't rush it, and there's some comfort that comes in that. But at the same time, you get jostled in it. It's a kind of a crashy, heavy duty suspension. It's in the case of my truck, it probably needs to all be torn out and refreshed. So there's some subjective concerns there. But I've had the wagon back the past 2 days, and I I really do love just getting in it and just being immediately, like, even that car with original suspension is still so comfortable. And
Mm.
by the same token, if it's kind of like I could see wanting this Excursion just because there's nothing else like it. But at the same time, to your point, every day, it's tough because the final thought I have on it is, if I had the opportunity to buy either one of these this week, I would probably say to myself, there's a good chance I could find another E46 M3 in this kind of condition.
So true.
It'd be
So
far
true.
harder to find one of these, you know?
Yeah, you know what? By the end of your pitch there, it's like, you know what, dude? Because you know what? As rare as the M3s are, I think from 2000 to 2006, I think they made 71,000, or they
I'm
made a
not,
lot of them.
yeah, a good number for sure.
The
Uh,
Excursion, you're right. It's you don't see that every day. And I would
no.
probably have a crazier reaction to that than I would to an M3 on the road. If I saw that on the road, I'd be like, "Whoa!" I'd take a picture.
Yeah,
That's
right. And to me,
yeah, that's a good point.
that
That's a good
that's
point.
that's what drives people to, especially if you're a seller, right? That's what drives people to pay too much or to go jump through hoops to get something home, is that
Oh,
sense
totally.
of scarcity. I actually meant to ask you, did you sell that lime green Mustang GT off the lot last
It
week? I
was
think,
a, it was a Boss 302.
yeah. And I
Yeah,
thought,
yeah. I sold it to a
and that
guy in
went
Mississippi.
Mississippi, yeah. So I mean, right there, I
You know
thought
what
that was
though?
What?
That thing was sitting around for 6 months. No one wanted it. I will say though, I don't want to keep rambling
And you
on, but
just
that
blew up my
thing,
theory.
no, it's crazy, man. No one wanted it.
That's very strange
Get
to me.
this. Get this. This is actually kind of a fun story. I don't even know if I'm allowed to tell this,
Yeah, we
but
got 5 minutes. Go for
if, if this video blows up, I'll probably get in trouble. But
it.
anyways, this guy, it was sitting on a lot for so long, right? I've known that car for a year
Oh,
since I started
I mean,
working
I
there.
go to the path every day going to that to my daughter's school, and it was
You've
there.
seen it a
Seen a
ton,
lot. Yeah.
right? So this guy bought it, but he like never got it registered. He bought it after like 6 months of it sitting there, and then he went away,
Oh no.
and no, like not like he didn't pass away or anything,
No,
but
no.
he wasn't able to,
He
you know,
he changed his
the guy
residence
went
for
to
a few
jail.
years.
Guy went to
Yeah.
jail, whatever. And so it got returned back to us because it never got registered like 6 months later. And then
So
for another 4 months, like he had the car in his possession for 6 months and it somehow got traded back into us from family member or something. Crazy. It still had the temp tags on it in June and they expired December 2021, whatever. Crazy. And then I sold it to that guy 4 months later, which was a couple weeks ago in Mississippi.
yeah,
Sent it on a truck. Never see it again. But I will
that's
tell you, Boss 302 side pipes. It has the little button. So it's really cool. It is a really cool car.
that's a phenomenal story, though. I mean, to have a car of that caliber, that rarity, to come back and never having been used. I mean, that's almost like 25 years from now. Like if that guy didn't have family or didn't have someone looking at it, paying his bills, that you just
Yep.
pulled out of his garage and wait a minute, this is a brand new Boss 302, and it's like, oh, he went to jail and never came out. Um,
Yes.
that's nuts. That's
Because
absolutely nuts.
imagine if you found a 71 school bus yellow 302 in a barn and it had 15K miles on the clock. It would
Right,
be a $200,000 car.
right. Was it
So yeah.
what did it sell new here in Rhode Island, or did it go somewhere else?
Um I believe it was in New England. It might have originally sold. It didn't sell from flood originally, I don't think.
Yeah,
But
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 anyway, that's a crazy story, and
yeah.
but certainly I think the individual who bought it in Mississippi bought a good one, because again, that's hard car to find, and that color combo too. Very few in that scheme.
Yep. Paint code has got to have it green. A little
Oh,
a little
jeez.
cheesy, but it's totally American. So,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It works. It works. Uh, Lars, well, we're at time, so thanks for doing this. I think we're gonna have you keep grabbing the finds, because these were a lot of fun, and
These
definitely
were fun, weren't they? These were
they
cool. We had
were.
some fun tonight. This was a good one.
Yeah, and we'll keep doing this. We're gonna keep getting better each week, and um, we encourage folks to comment, let us know your thoughts on our thoughts,
Totally.
and which one you take home, and certainly as you see sales each week, you can send them into us, and we're going to get better editing, so we have contact info and things like this here. But if you have any
This is
finds,
phase one.
this is
This
very
is phase
very
one.
much phase one. And you can also you can find us on Instagram at the_common_gear, and Jeff at thecommongear.com is how you get in touch with us. So thank you, Lars, and thanks everyone for watching.
Awesome, Jeff. Next week, same time. We will see you then.
Same time, same place. Sounds good. All right.
All right.
Take
Take
care.
care.